Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Prep Life Podcast. This is your founder and CEO of Glam Girl Bikini, Amy Anger. And today I'm joined by two fabulous people. First, with me in the studio is Coach Lee Marie Hostetter. Hey, Lee.
Hi, everyone.
And today we are also joined by Gillian Hughes, the owner of Momshell Method Fitness. Thank you so much for
Hey
coming
guys.
today, Gillian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we were just talking offline. We okayed it with her that we're calling you the bikini dinosaur. So let's just start with that. How long have you been competing?
So I did my first competition in 2005. So
Wow.
it'll be 20 years next year. And I started in fitness, well, I don't know if it's a little, that's not correct, but Fitness America. I lived in Florida at the time and they were kind of like pageant style, but like with the fitness theme. And then from there, found my way to the NPC and did figure. And then in 2009, when Bikini started, I was like, yes, this is totally for me. And then I've been competing in bikini ever since.
How many years did you do figure then?
I only did two NPC figure shows.
Okay.
And then I had a baby. And when I came back, Bikini had started. So that was kind of a really nice transition. And I mean, it's wild. I mean, we had a one piece suit back then. You competed twice, you did the one piece suit and then you had the two piece suit. It was, I think just for stage time because there were fewer women's divisions back then.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't do terrible. Like, the girls were not as big in figure as they are now. I mean, all the divisions have evolved, but yeah, I loved fitness since I could walk, and competing just kind of. I'm not gonna say it came naturally to me, but it was just something new to do once I stopped doing cheerleading, and yeah, I've just loved it ever since.
And you're a mom of five now, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yep. I
So,
have two of my own and then three bonus kiddos. So, but very busy household. Everybody's in sports and it's a lot going on all the time.
and tell us like where you're located, how old you are, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
And
I don't mind. I'm
yeah,
proud. So, I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm originally from Ontario, Canada. I moved to the States when I was 21, and I'm 44. I'll be 45 next year in 2025. So,
44 going on like 20. You look so
Oh
youthful.
my gosh. Yes.
We have so many
I
questions
feel
about
good.
I
your
actually have a
beauty
question
and
about
youth.
that.
Yeah, so why don't you just pop
Let's
into
just
that one?
pause the history for a second. This is so interesting. But I do have a listener question about that. And it is about your beauty routine. And Shelly Snyder, she asked, how do you remain so youthful? Your skin is
Yeah.
tight, cellulite
Yeah.
free. What products do you use?
I mean, this is a probably not the sexiest answer, but like I think it really does come.
Uh-oh. I think we lost connection right when she was about to give
I
us the
know, it was
juice.
like all the good stuff.
Okay.
My beauty routine.
All right, we're back.
Okay, sorry about that. Oh, yeah, so my beauty routine. I mean, it's very unstructured. I think it's just got everything to do with lifestyle. Honestly, that's not the most sexy answer, but you know, protein and keeping stress minimal and drinking water, I would say like I don't even believe that I've got like the genetics that lend itself to have fabulous skin or whatnot. I think I've always prioritized protein and I try to have balance with all things. I'm not one of those people that's like I've got to eat all organic and I can't have a drop of alcohol. Like if you know me, like I'm a fun girl that likes to kind of explore all things and do all the things, but I just keep everything balanced. So I don't know. I mean, I do as I've gotten older, I have a routine for taking care of my skin so that I, don't age any faster than I already am. But I guess probably just nutrition and having this lifestyle for so long. I've been doing
Yeah.
this for a very long time. So I think that has helped.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. I mean, you are the bikini dinosaur. I mean, it definitely is it brings youth and living out the prep life. So we really love having you on just because I feel like you really exemplify what prep life is all about. So you have your own podcast that I've been binge watching and listening to.
Thank you so much.
I pretty much listen to every episode, I think, right now, just because I find so many like common ground, like with you, especially just we're the same age and we're both moms and been competing for a while. But what, so bikinis after babies is huge, that's what I did as well. So tell us like what inspired you to start the podcast, and really, I mean, we'll get into also, I want to hear about like you as an entrepreneur too, because there aren't many of us that are female owned and operated and things like that. So I want to hear about all of that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you probably have this experience too of people that will tell you, like, oh, I really want to compete, but like, I don't think I can because of my age, or because I've had babies, or because I've had C-section, or because I lost 100 pounds and I might have loose skin. And so I just wanted to share stories of girls that have, gone through things, childbirth, and now they're in their 40s or even younger than that, but just to share that inspiration to somebody who thinks that they can't be involved in this sport, because I've been doing this so long and met so many incredible people, like people that have overcome like devastating loss, like very, difficult diseases, things like that. So there's no reason why anybody can't do this. And I love it so much that I want everybody to experience it. So by doing this, it gave me a platform to be able to inspire other people. And it's been so amazing. Like I didn't expect for people to like love it so much. Like there was this girl backstage this weekend and she's like, I know that voice. She's like, oh my God, I listened to your podcast. I love you. She literally said she loved me. I'm like, I love you too. So it's just like the fact that anybody would like, want to hear what I have to say and, be able to just share my love for this and maybe inspire somebody, even if it's not competing, but maybe just to be like, hey, could I like, look good in a swimsuit again after having all these kids? And, now I'm 50 and I haven't stepped foot in the gym in 10 years. Like, yeah, yes, you can. You can really have anything if you're, willing to find the resources and put in the work. So it's been something that I didn't expect to love as much as I do, but I absolutely love it.
Yeah. And when was the inception of Momshell Method Fitness? And I guess I have a couple questions in regards to that. So I know it
Yeah.
started with just you, and now you have several
Yeah.
coaches under you working side by side. So tell us a little bit about that in your business.
Yeah, yeah. So I started coaching in like 2013. And at the time, I was doing coaching part time and then working as a nurse. And I worked in critical care, 12-hour shifts, nights, trying to compete, like just trying to do too many things. And the biggest priority was, being a mom. And there was just no schedule that seemed to work with the kids. I was always having to beg for weekends off so I could go to soccer games. And I even worked in an office for a while, but then I was, missing things during the school day. So I thought I've really just got to see what happens if I just go after my passion. And it just took off. I went from coaching like 10 women kind of in my neighborhood, and then they told all of their friends, and then it just grew and grew and grew. And it just allowed me to really do what I'm most passionate about. And I think having the nursing background was very helpful. I've definitely found that in the last few years, just as people have kind of come to me with like some complex things that they're dealing with, and having a medical background is really helpful. And so then it grew, and it's been a multitude of different names. I was on my own, and then in my first marriage, my first husband and I coached together, and it was Becker Built Bodies. And we still coach. He coaches men and I coach women, and we'll give each other clients. We get along great. We have a really good like friendship post divorce, very rare, but it's also nice because it's just one less stress in my life. And so, I have lifestyle clients and competitors. And then about 2 years ago, I just really felt I started to feel overwhelmed again. And I want to grow. I want to reach more people. I want to be able to do more, and I want more balance. The kids are now older. My daughter does competitive cheer. We travel. My son is in wrestling, and there's tournaments all the time. And so growing the company and bringing on some coaches was scary because I care so much about the quality of our coaching and all of these ladies that want my help. And I have just the best coaches that work with me. So there's 5 success coaches that work with me now, and 2 of them also do prep so we can coach more people. And it's just cool because that when we go to shows, there's the big group of us. I mean, you've seen us backstage, and we just we just want to make that day so much fun, and I can do so much more for our clients with the help of my team. So it's been a fun journey for sure.
I love that. And you had a son that just recently competed, right?
Yeah. So my son is 16. So he can't compete in like
Oh,
NPC
okay.
sanctioned events because
Okay.
you have to be 18. But
Yes.
there was like a little invitational, like our gym here in St. Louis, House of Pain had like just like a little fun event, and he did really, really well. I mean, he grew
Oh,
up in
So
bodybuilding.
cool.
When he was little, like they'd sometimes let him go on stage and give out trophies. I actually competed pregnant with him.
oh my gosh. Are you
Yes, I
serious?
did. Yes,
Whoa.
I had no idea. I mean, you lose your period in prep, and
Yeah.
I was
Oh
really
my
tired, but
God.
like I had a flat stomach. And after the show, like I remember just being exhausted. I'm like, this is really bizarre. Like I had already done like 4 or 5 shows and not really had any issues. I mean, my
Yeah.
belly was huge, and I'm like, man, I've rebounded like terribly, and then come to find out, I think I was on stage 11 weeks pregnant, which is I think is like a
Wow.
miracle too. Like, and I think also like bodybuilding, gets a bad rap for like it's so unhealthy. And well, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I didn't have any issues with my pregnancy. Like certainly I was doing more cardio than I should have. And the doctor explained to me like, it's like sort of the first order of life. Like basically the baby took all the nutrition and there was none for you. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, so yeah, I mean, he's literally been involved in the sport like since he was like a fetus. And so
Wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
wild. I never
So
knew that story.
yeah. Well, then that's where the figure one piece was great because I got to cover my tummy. I was like, you know. So
Wow.
I
yeah.
love
So
that.
I mean, there's just the stories of this journey. And and I said to somebody the other day, I'm like, I don't ever plan on stopping. Like, why would I stop? I love competing so much. Like you meet so many great people and it's exciting and I don't know.
Yeah.
I just love
So
it.
you have talked about diastasis recti, and I know you have like
Mhm.
a guide for women that have had babies, like
Yeah.
on specifically what to do with their abs
Yeah.
and like the vacuuming and things like that. Can you speak a little bit more on that? Because first of all, I should have started with this, but you just competed at Universe this
I did.
past weekend and you got third place. So you
The
did
tan is still
amazing. You
on.
look
Thank
so
you.
good. And your waist
Thank you so
was
much.
snatched. So everybody that knows Jillian, they probably know how tiny your waist and your core look. So yes, give us all the secrets.
Well, it wasn't always the case. Like I'm really short and I have a very short torso. So like having babies and big babies, like my babies were like 7 pounds, 13 ounces and 8 pounds, 13 ounces was my daughter. So big babies. Never had any stretch marks, but certainly loose skin, as I, lost weight. But after my second pregnancy, I remember I was in a Pilates class and the instructor came around and she looked at my stomach and I was like, what is she looking at? And it kind of tented up in like a dome when I was doing like a sit up. And she's like,
Oh,
you need to get that looked at. I think you have a separation between your abs. And I was like, oh, I'm sure that's like not really a big deal. But then I came to find out that all of the traditional core work that I had been doing was making it worse. And I did have pain too, but I just kind of ignored it. So I mean, it's taken time. It will probably never go all the way together. But what I've noticed is like through like really spending time on vacuum training and not just spending time on it, but actually getting the technique. I actually worked with a coach in Brazil who helped me like actually figure out how to engage those muscles. So I've had 2 C-sections also. And so that was the real game changer for me as well. So when I do have somebody that has questions, like I will do like a virtual session with them to see their technique and see if they're doing it right. And if it's outside of my scope and I think that they really need a specialist, then I'll have them go to Karina. She's wonderful. It's a little 8-week course. And I think every competitor should do it, honestly. She's so good.
what's her
Um,
name?
it's
Karina.
Karina Ongi, ONG. I'll give you the link so you can post it in the show notes. But
Yeah, that'd
she's
be
in
great.
Brazil and she does it's she'll do a session with you and then she does self-study. So she'll send you different exercises and just activated deep muscles in my core. So even though like if you look at my midsection, I do have a gap there. Because I was able to strengthen my core, my belly doesn't stick out anymore. And that was always an issue. Like in my off seasons when I would gain weight and I would always be really self-conscious about my midsection. I do waist training as well. I wear like the squeeze me skinny. But getting the vacuum technique down was key for me. And I don't do any other core work. I don't do sit-ups or anything like that. So
Yeah. Did you have a hernia? I feel like I've heard you
yep,
talk about that.
yep,
Like
yep.
with
And
your
they
kids.
don't think that they need to repair it. So and it's
It's
actually something
cosmetic.
that yeah, and it's honestly not as pronounced now that my tummy doesn't stick out anymore. So it's sort of if I can avoid having any surgery at all, like that would be the goal. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Did you want to ask the listener
Mm-hmm.
question about
Yeah.
so you are just you look like you're 20. So we're like, we've got a lot of
That's nice to
questions
hear.
about how you age so youthfully. You kind of answered that before with the skin one, but I know
Okay,
we've
this
got
So
other ones.
flattering.
this listener has quite a few questions. So, first one, how you have adapted your training over the years to accommodate your competition lifestyle and stay consistent and relevant.
So I'll start with that one because there is a list. Thank you, Erin, for sending that.
So, I mean, I guess if I talk about sort of like how training has changed, I think one huge shift, like in the last even year, which I wish that I maybe had made this shift years ago, was like learning about intensity and training. And the coach that I'm with now, that was one of the first things that we worked on together was getting that intensity. And I think I mistakenly focused so much on how much I could lift without focusing on the quality or really how hard I was pushing myself. And that has changed my body like tremendously. Like that has been like the big thing. People keep asking, what's different about your shape? Like, how did you make this kind of progress? Because it is hard when you've been training for over 20 years, your body doesn't like respond quickly. Like I love when I have a new client and they get those newbie gains. I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous. Like it's been years for me. Like, it takes longer, and I don't think that's an age thing. I think that's just like a muscle maturity thing. It's like our bodies are just kind of, they've adapted. So that was huge. I think that's how I've been able to, I think, stay in a competitive spot because the division, everybody's bringing it, everybody is getting better and better, and the classes are getting bigger. I think that the 40s it's really heated up. Like,
masters in general.
Yeah.
Even 50s. It's huge.
Yes. Well, and now we have the Masters Olympia. So I think everybody's kind of like, well, that's something that I can work towards. Like, because if you were going to get a pro card as a 50-year-old competitor back, 5-6 years ago, it's like, well, then what are my goals now? Like there weren't as many master shows. And now like you've got Joe Pishkula, who has an amazing Masters Pro division that you don't have to pay to enter as a Masters Pro. Normally you have to pay to enter the Masters Pro classes at shows. And so, it's growing so much. And also competitors are getting older. We had Angelica on a couple weeks ago. She just turned 40. Doesn't look it.
I know. That was such a good episode. I loved that one.
Oh,
if you haven't listened to it, that's her plug.
She was an angel. Oh my God, it was amazing. So yeah, I think that's it. And I think like, you just have to always, like, if you've got a challenge that you're facing, like maybe you're, oh gosh, my glutes aren't big enough. Well, don't give up. You can make bigger glutes. Like so many people feel defeated. Like they look at shows and like, oh, I can never have X, Y, and Z. Why not? Why can't you? Like, and maybe that's the crazy thing in my brain that has kept me going, but it's just a constant quest of like, how can I do better? And I try not to focus on too many things at one time because I think it'll bring you down. You just kind of, okay, this I'm going to focus on my glutes at this point. Okay, I'm going to work on, bringing my waist in. I'm really going to spend time on posing, and just always try to be 1% better in any facet. And you'll get there. You're going to continue to climb.
Yeah. I like what you said about we're not trying to PR. It's not like we're trying to be power lifters. We're not going for a strength goal. So it really doesn't matter if you're pushing like all this weight, if your quality is not there. And so I love that you mentioned that.
You don't want to get hurt. Like you don't want to injure yourself. You see girls like, and they're training at Brett's Booty Lab, which that place looks amazing. I'd love to visit.
Yeah.
But they are like, don't forget, these are some of the best athletes in the world, right? Like Yarishna is a beast. She is a very strong athlete. She's amazing. That's not most people. So you can't be like, oh, well, she hip thrusts 450 pounds for 8. I have to do that too. No, you don't. Like, we don't want to try to aim for those goals. Like, I'm not going to be her. And I'm not going to let that make me feel like I'm not doing enough. And I think that can happen too, is that people are maybe comparing themselves to how strong someone else is. And I think it's just finding that intensity is really a key. And it might be not an impressive hip thrust that maybe isn't Instagram worthy, but who cares?
That's
just don't put on Instagram.
Yeah, totally. Yes. Okay. So that actually leads really good to the next question. So have you taken any seasons off? And I think maybe what she means is like, obviously you do have off season in between prep. You're not in prep all the time, but like, have you ever taken like a long chunk season off?
Yeah.
Typically work on things.
Yes, several times. Like, around the time of my divorce, just, for a lot of reasons that I didn't think it was a good thing to pour my energy into when I was trying to sort of like kind of start my life over again. I didn't leave the gym. I didn't stop training or anything like that. I just wasn't as, and it was something that I just, and it wasn't a good time to put, and because, you've got to be laser focused. If you're going to do this, you've got to, put everything you've got into it. So that didn't feel like it was a time for me to do that and just make sure everybody was okay and just get started on a new routine. So I took a long break off there. And yeah, over the years, I like to do shows in, 2 or 3s and then take time off. Like after I have a show in 2 weeks and then I'm going to take off the rest of this year because you can't keep going. And I also try to be very strategic. So, a lot of the Masters National shows are like in and around the summer. So that's typically what I do. But when I'm off, I think my thing is you just got to keep showing up. Like I post during off season, I post when I'm heavier, I post all the time. Like, my show body is like, I'm not attached to that because it's temporary. And I think also, well, my new husband, well, he's not that new anymore, but he's my second husband. But I remember him telling me one time, like, it's cool and stuff that you guys can get that lean, but like, like a woman's body is, meant to be sort of curvy and like we're supposed to be like hard and muscular, and I think that's a very traditional value, but I think probably prior to this relationship, I always thought that, it was celebrated to be shredded. And that was really what everybody wanted. Cause you hear that all the time on social media, like, oh my gosh, she looks so great. And, messages and stuff like that. But I'm like, yeah, but like, that's so temporary and it's so unhealthy to always strive for that. So I think that mindset has helped me to kind of just show up in all areas of my journey, whether I'm in off season or prepping or whatever.
I love that so much. Do you have something?
I do. Okay. Just while we're on the vein of like, you have your Masters Nationals coming up here on the 20th of July. So what was your feedback at Universe? Kind of what was a recap of that show? Just competitors that are looking, because you've been at Universe a couple of times, right?
Yeah, this is my second time doing it.
Okay. So, kind of like, what did that look like? Brief recap of the show, and then kind of how did that go with your feedback and stuff?
Yeah. So this was like the first opportunity for Masters to turn pro this year. Right. And then we have Masters Nationals and then we have North Americans, but the height or the age splits are different for this one. They're 10-year. So it's 35 and then 40 plus, 50 plus, 60 plus, whereas Masters Nationals and North Americans are 5-year splits. So I knew the classes were going to be bigger and there were 17 girls in my height class. And I knew a lot of them just from, I didn't do the show last year. So I looked and saw who everybody was and, that girl was second last year. Oh gosh, I know that girl. And I thought, you know what? If I get top 5, I'll be so happy because these girls are bringing it. And then I had done the DC Pro-Am about 4 weeks ago. And the girl who won that was in my class. And I wasn't like, oh, it's game over or anything like that. I just felt really grateful to be there and I felt great that day. I felt really ready. I felt really prepared. My routine felt better than it ever had. Sandy was not there. So when I saw that she wasn't there, I'm like, oh no, because we all strive to bring to Sandy our improvements. And the last time I saw her, she gave me some feedback and I've spent, a long time working on it. And I was like, oh, she's not here. But the judges the feedback was that I had improved. So Tyler did acknowledge that he had seen me before and then I had improved and just tighter glutes. So I think for me, it's a skin thing because if I don't fill out my glutes enough, then, I don't have tight skin. And I think that's just because my glutes, they can be really full, but if they aren't showing up as full, then I have to really watch that I don't have a little bit of, and it's really it just looks like a jiggle. But when it's these most amazing girls and they're just trying to find one tiny little thing to knock you off of that spot to make it easier to choose first, like you have to be really spot on. So we have a strategy to kind of bring that. I'm going to come in just a little bit leaner as well. I wanted to come in leaner and James was like, you don't need to come in leaner. And I was like, but I really want to, because you always kind of want those shreds, but it is like, you've got to make sure you don't push that too far. And then, you're too shredded and you don't have the shape. So man, it's like every show you're just kind of trying, I don't say you're trying different things, but you fine tune one tiny little thing and it makes, a world of difference. So I have just a couple weeks, which I'm glad I don't have more time than that. At first I was like, I need more time, but I'm really glad because you kind of overthink everything. And then you show up and you've got like a brand new routine. You're wearing your hair different and we've changed too many things. And that's not what they asked you to do. So
Right.
it's kind of the
Yeah.
perfect amount of time.
And Sandy
So
will be at this one. Yeah, she's
yes.
traditionally not at Universe. It's always Tyler. Which yeah, that'll be so when was the last time Sandy saw you?
So it was Clash in 2023, which I do not
Okay.
really talk about that show. Um, I had done Universe and Masters Nationals in 22, and I got third at Universe and second at Masters Nationals. And the feedback was just that I needed to grow. So I tried to grow in 2 months and jump into another prep. And that was the year that they canceled the Arnold Amateur. Remember they canceled the Arnold Amateur in 23 and then they brought
Yes.
it back.
Yeah,
So
because you
I
were supposed to
registered for it.
compete.
Yep, I registered for it
Wow,
and
I remember
everything. And
that.
then they canceled it. And I was like, all right, well, I just bought myself some more time. And then they brought it back. But, anyways, and I was kind of dealing with just like some gut issues. I had a lot going on with work and family. And I really needed more time off. So I did Clash thinking that I would do Clash. And then I don't know, it was way too far away from national shows for Masters. I don't know really. It was in March of 23. But it was a good experience to understand that if I want to keep up in the division, I need to take more time to build that density and to get really healthy too. I hadn't really brought my calories back up. My body just didn't have enough time to recover. My sleep was poor, and I really learned a lot about trying to not be a superhero because I used to be a 3:30 in the morning gym girly. I'm super proud of that. Yeah, I'm that girl. I'm not that girl anymore. That was just running me into the ground. So,
Yeah.
as an athlete, recovery is so important. So I would say like anytime things go bad for me, it's because I'm supposed to learn something and then I'm supposed to help other people with that knowledge. So it really taught me a lot. So 23 was sort of, a show early in the year, and then I took the rest of the year off. So this is my first time back at nationals in 2 years.
Okay. So
Okay.
what changes are you guys gonna kind of bring to the table? Are you gonna try to just fill out more or
Yeah, so I'm going to try to get just a little bit tighter in my hamstrings, so just a little bit leaner,
okay?
and then fill out into the show. I mean, I felt like I was pretty full. I think there's a few small changes to my posing routine that I can apply so that I don't drop my glutes.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, minor things really. I mean, I felt like I was 100% that day. I'm waiting for my video from Gilco to see. I've seen the live stream, but I haven't seen his video. But I think there was probably a couple of areas where I just, you step just 2 inches too far and then it's, things drop. And for me too, I have a very long glute. It's not bubbly. So I have to really keep my butt up or it doesn't have the projection. So I'm sure
Yeah.
that has something to do with it. So, but I had great competitors in my class. I mean, and I'm in the A class, so it's 5'1" and under. So you get 5'1", 5 foot, 4'11", 4'10". Like it's a huge range of ages, or of heights. And I think sometimes that can be a bit challenging because there are differences between me and some of the other girls. Like some of them are just really like itty bitty, like, tiny. And I think I'm pretty small, but they're even smaller. So
Yeah, we deal with the opposite problem because
Yeah.
I'm always like the shortest in H. Now I am considered G now that they've changed the five
oh yeah.
seven shift. But yeah, H is to infinity and beyond. So yeah, it's the same
Well,
problem
yeah, it's
where
the
it's
same
like
thing.
there's
Mhm.
such a small margin in the other ones, and then it's like this height and up or this
Yeah.
height and down. So it
Yeah.
makes a big difference in
Yeah.
muscle insertions
And
and
I'm always
the way
afraid
people's
to
bodies
like
are.
request for B because you can kind of go, are you sure I'm not in B? But
Oh,
I've been
okay.
in A so many
Never heard of
times.
that.
Well, I mean, imagine you just, stand. I'm right on that cusp. I mean, I could
Okay.
probably just stand up a little bit
Yeah.
taller and be in the B class, but I'm
Wear
scared
a
to
bun.
death. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, they're very nobody cheats. I'm not implying that, but like,
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I really, I don't know. I've been in A class for so long, so
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll
Okay,
see what the
so
next
you
week
did
brings.
talk about working on your glutes. I know I saw like a transformation glute post on your Instagram that was really
Mhm.
cool. You had some good stuff to say about that. So the last question is, have you noticed it being more challenging to maintain your composition physique as you've aged? And if so, what has helped you get past barriers with your mindset or your hormones or perimenopause struggles or anything like that and overcoming that?
Well, I think honestly, I think it's been easier to maintain a leaner physique as I've gotten older. And there's a couple of different reasons why I think that. I think muscle maturity, and staying really consistent in the gym, like even if I'm into an off season and I'm not maybe 100% with my diet, I never skip training. Even when we travel, like I lift weights in Mexico. Like I'm not that type of person, like I have to work out, but it's just important to me. It's like self-care. It's part of what I do. I think that really helps. I learned early that cardio was a tool for fat loss, but not the best thing for fitness as somebody going through perimenopause. And I went through perimenopause. Well, I'm still in it, but I started early. I mean, I was like in my mid 30s and things were kind of out of whack. So, getting my labs done early and just staying on top of it rather than sort of like cleaning up messes, I think has been the other approach, like just being really proactive. And I think some people, when it comes to blood work, I think I can see them go like, oh, here we go. Either they don't want to know, they're afraid it's going to be a huge investment, or they've got horror stories of somebody who, was misled and started on a regimen that was, not good for them. So I've been fortunate that I've had good experiences and I've just stayed on top of things. But I think also like as I've gotten older, I've just gotten like more mature about a lot of things. And so, I used to cope with food and alcohol when I was younger because I just didn't have the skills to like handle problems and conflict. And now as I've gotten older, I can find different ways to cope with things. So I'm not doing that anymore. And I think just because I'm more settled, maybe like I'm not, I'm not going to go on a bender for 3 days. Like, even if we do go out and have some food and a couple of drinks, I'm at the gym the next morning. Like it doesn't change. So I think there's a lot of pros to being I say like an older athlete and like as a coach too, like I love training my ladies in their 40s and 50s because they're just, they're level headed. I think what is harder for us is the age thing is, and if we let it sort of be like, oh, well, that's a limitation. And I don't see it that way. So if anything, my role in that coaching relationship is to show them like, girl, no, it's not, and they'll be, wow, you're really 44. I'm like, yes, it just gets better. So attitude is truly everything for sure.
I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you juggle you've got so much going on. I mean, I know what it's like to have a kid in competitive sports where you're traveling on the weekends, you're a business owner, your wife, your mom, you're an athlete. How do you kind of balance that? Because I've even seen you at shows where you're competing and you have athletes backstage that you're coaching. How do you find that balance?
Well, I love schedules. I like everything's written down. I'm a pen and paper kind of girly. I stay pretty organized when it comes to that. And I'm also like, I like to be doing a lot of stuff. Like I like being busy. I don't like idle time. Like I'm kind of always working on a project. So, and I just want to help people. So it's hard for me to say no. And then I don't want to, turn around and be like, oh, I took on too much, so I think it's just my personality to kind of, always have kind of a few irons in the fire. But, I think the gym is my me time. It's where I do a lot of my best thinking. It's where, I kind of just let out any frustrations that I might have. But I think as I've kind of watched the kids get older, I can see that like my habits and the things that I do have been good for them to see, like, because they're kind of get up and go people as well. Like, they don't sit around and try to find something to do. We're all kind of busy. So yeah, and I have a good support system. Like the kids are all getting older now and they're all helpful. My husband's very supportive. So, it's not perfect. There's definitely moments of like, oh, this is a hot mess. What are we doing? But just schedules. I think one thing that's helped me a lot is I have a power list. I probably talked about this before. I don't know if you've seen this, but I make a list of 3 things that are like a main priority for the day.
Okay.
Because I could write a list of 500 if I wanted to. And I used to do that because I like to tick them off. So crazy. But I would put a bunch of things I had to do and then try to tick everything off, which is like impossible. And then if anything gets in your way and you can't do it, you feel like you failed. So I have just my power list of 3 main things. And then when I get these 3 things done, like it might be a work project. And like, it's not like things I would do every day, like working out's not on there, posing's not on there. Like those are things I automatically do, but just things I need to accomplish. I think that helps me to prioritize as well.
Yeah. That reminds me of a journal that I've been using called Know Your Power. It has 3 things that you're supposed to get done. So I wonder if there's any correlation, but
I think it's from Mel Robbins, maybe. Is it Mel
Okay.
Robbins or somebody?
Yeah, she's
Yeah, because I've
awesome.
seen it a couple of different
Mm-hmm,
places. I know
mm-hmm.
she is.
Yeah. So what are some tips that you have just for competitors that are maybe just first starting?
Well, I think make sure that you have a coach and
Yeah.
make sure that the coach that you have is somebody that you can go to with anything because there's so much information out there. And I've seen so many times where people have a coach, but then they're also doing all this stuff on the side that isn't like working well with what they're doing with their coach. And hopefully that person is able to, show you the way so that, you don't need to have to research all the things and then get a bunch of bad information. So I think that's the best place to start. I coached myself for so long. I don't even know how I did it. But also I started like in the ice ages, like the very beginning days of social media.
Yeah.
You had like no Facebook or anything. So like you online coaching like wasn't a thing because like I dial up internet. So but now there's so many resources, which can be a bad thing because I think there's too much.
True.
And then there's things like Reddit with and like those Facebook groups that have all the people like comparing themselves and putting their progress photos and it can be so toxic. So there's bad places to get
Yeah.
information. But if I think when you find that person that's your coach, like just look at them as your like leader. Like they're not going to stray me in the wrong direction, right? So I think that's it. And then just I think having like reasonable expectations, like don't go, I want to look like Jen Dory at my first show. I
Yeah.
think it's not that you can't dream to have the level of conditioning and musculature and be as beautiful and accomplished as her. But even Jen Dory didn't look like Jen Dory at her first show, right? So
Right.
everybody
Right.
starts somewhere. So like being really realistic, but knowing that that's good enough because sometimes people think they look at a national show like, well, I have no business competing. I don't look like that. Well, that's not how you're supposed to look at your first show. If you're a true novice, like it's going to look different, but that doesn't mean that you can't get up there. And then I think just keep going and understand that it's going to take time but it's not just about the show all along the way, all the things you learn and all the experiences you have. It totally pays off on so many other facets of your life.
Yeah, love that. So if somebody's, wanting to go pro, they're a seasoned competitor, they've, maybe done some national shows, what's some advice that you would have for those people?
Well, I think, getting feedback is important. I think doing a warm up show is great too to make sure you're ready for nationals, because if
Okay.
you go and there's a lot of things to fix, like then, take the time that's needed to bring your best to nationals because it's very, very expensive. And, if you want to turn pro, you want to go into that show expecting to win. You don't want to go. I don't think it's a good idea to go to nationals just for the experience. And I think that sometimes people will like say that, and it's not that it's a bad. It's just it's really expensive. It really is, and
Yeah.
I think it's defeating to like have maybe done a small show and done really really well, and then go to nationals and get like 16th. It's like you go from like a high to a low, right? So like
Yeah.
take your time going there. And if you have people that you can ask if you want to reach out to somebody that you respect and admire in the industry, like do you think I'm ready? If you don't have a coach and you're just trying to get some feedback, like just see what people suggest, what that feedback is. But the best feedback is going to be from the judges, and if they think that you're ready and you've got what it takes, then definitely go for it. And I don't think it has to be years of competing at the amateur level to go there. I mean, there's plenty of people who turn pro really quickly. I'm not one of those people, but there are those people, and there are those people in the 40s and the 50s as well. So everyone's a little bit different, but I do say it can be for everybody. It's just being realistic about what that timeline looks like, and then continuing until you get there.
Yeah. So before we sign off, was there anything like any questions that maybe we didn't ask you or something that you wanted to share with the listeners about living the prep life or anything in general that we haven't asked you?
I don't know. I think that was so fun to kind of go a bunch of different areas, and I've been doing the interviewing for so long now, so it's kind of cool to share my stuff. And it's neat that people had questions for me, and I'm an open book. So if we didn't cover something and somebody wants to reach out to me, I love to share with other people. So
Yeah, that's a beautiful segue into our
hit me
next
up.
question. So how can they get a hold of you if they do want to reach out?
Yeah. So I am on Instagram, Gillian Hughes, all one word, _ momshell. And then on Facebook, Gillian Hughes. But yeah, mostly Instagram is probably where I'm the most active on social media. I have TikTok, but I don't really use it. And the podcast as well. We're on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, it's Bikinis After Babies. So
yeah, and maybe we can do a cross post so that we can share the love. We'll share the file so you can share on with your platform as well. Thank you so much for coming on. You're such a wealth of knowledge. I really appreciate your time.
And you guys are too. I mean, I've been listening to your podcast since, you started, and you share so much great information. And, the more we can share with other people to inspire them on their journeys, like that's just, the best part of all of this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you would like to give her some love, please be sure to tag her on your story and let her know what you thought of the episode. You can find us on Instagram at Prep Life Podcast or at Glam Girl Bikini. Thanks for listening, guys.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're gonna press this one right here.